2:01, and I'm going to call the Employee Benefits Trust meeting into order. I'm going to turn in, I guess, Monica's going to make the report, give us a report on our health benefits plan, and then we'll have to adjourn from the benefits meeting to approve the plan if we decide to do so.
So what we have before you is two plans for the health care plan year for 2021. We have the current health savings account plan, and then we also have the current base plan, which is the AGYB, ANDQ plan. We are asking that we no longer offer the top tier buy-up plan. That was the plan, one of the plans that was grandfathered in last year, that only people that were on it could be on it. So those employees that were on that plan could choose to go with the HSA plan, or they could choose to go with the current base plan, which was the ANDQ plan. The employees that were on that base plan could still continue to be on that base plan, or they could choose the HSA plan. And then employees that are currently on the HSA plan, because we had about 41 employees last year that chose to get on the HSA plan, plus we've required that all new employees get on the HSA plan, they would have to stay on the HSA plan. There is a difference between the monthly premiums per employee for the two plans of $34.53. So that we're asking that we do the same thing that we did last year, that difference go directly into an HSA account for the employees that are choosing the HSA account. And then we're also recommending that we include an additional $600 to the HSA account, bringing the total contribution to $1,014 for the year. We're asking that we would pay that quarterly in advance, so that way if we had employees leave, they wouldn't have it all up front. Plus, it also enables that when, unlike last year, when new employees come on, when that quarter would come up, they would get a little bit put into their HSA account, so that they would have some money to work with for their deductibles and premiums. If everything stayed like it was, where we still had like just the 48 people on the HSA plan, and then we had the all the other employees on the base plan, then that would put us, the annual cost would put us about $1.2 million, which was the desired threshold that the council had set, I guess it was a year or two ago. If we had an additional 25 employees jump onto the HSA plan, and with the contributions that we were doing, that would have our total annual cost to be about $1,215,000. So that'd put us about $15,000 above that 1.2 threshold. Like I said, the first year we did it, we had about 41 employees switch over to the HSA plan. The only other difference, the medical and the dental stay the same, and then the only other difference that we're asking to consider, instead of the with our plans, we have a what they call I think it's called Simply Engage plan, where you can get like up to $200 in gift cards a year for doing things like doing your health screening and comparing prices and some other things. They have another one called Motion, where employees can get, that goes with the HSA plan, where employees can get up to $3 a day put into their HSA account. And it's things like if you walk 10,000 steps a day, you get $1. If you, like 6 times a day, do, I think it's like 500 steps in 7 minutes or something like that, you get $1. And then there's another one, if you do like 3,000 steps in 30 minutes or something like that, you get $1. So you can get up to $1,095 additional into your HSA account by being part of that Motion.
Funded by the insurance policy.
And that's funded by the insurance. That doesn't cost the city anything. So,
Any questions?
On the HSA, what's our contribution to that per employee if they join the HSA? The city's making a contribution for that employee?
well, that's strictly up to the council. We're recommending about $1,014. That's the difference between the base plan and the HSA plan per month for employee, plus an additional $600. We did $1,300 last year.
And you're asking for the same this year?
A little less
A
this
little
year,
less, okay.
unless the council chooses to throw a different amount out there.
Other questions? I'm gonna keep trying to look up here at the two guys that are on the remotely. Gerald, Nick, you have a question?
No, sir.
One of the things that I'm gonna ask, and we don't have to do this today, I want to kind of jump out there maybe, is I've suggested there are a couple employees that have some pretty high deductible costs up front. And what I've talked with Monica and Alan about is maybe coming up with a fund that allows the administrator to have some discretion in case somebody has a medical emergency or whatever and they can't meet their deductible quickly or whatever, that will allow the administrator to have some discretion to be able to fund a certain amount of that, to cover that amount. So we can talk about that later, but, you know, I just want to throw that out there. I discussed that with them as a possibility. Anybody else have any questions?
Monica, when do we need council action on this today?
Well, we'd like it as soon as possible. I'm going to say that because they have to have time to build the enrollment hub for all the employees to enroll in. So that does take, you know, a little bit of time to get all that information for new employees and such populated. We had originally, you know, our fallback plan was, you know, we had originally thought to do it earlier, and then we're like, well, if we can't, you know, at the latest, get the council to approve it on the April 7th council meeting, but
The plan is today come out of it and consider approving it tonight, Alan, or this afternoon, if that's what the council's preference is. Other questions?
Well, I guess my only concern is, Doug, this is pretty short notice for us. We didn't have much time to look or think about what we're doing. Considering we're gonna meet weekly, would it be possible, I assume we're gonna continue to meet weekly to discuss the coronavirus. Would it be possible to take action on this next week without upsetting the timetable for the staff?
Without asking for a vote from council, it's really employee benefits. Does that seem to be okay with everyone? Is there anybody got a concern about that? Say it that way.
So does he need to make a motion that?
No, I could just skip the agenda. I can just move the agenda from out. Is that right, Brady? I can just remove it?
Yes.
So, all right, that's what we'll do then. So any other questions for Monica while she's here? Give you all a chance next week. We'll bring it back up next week then. Or the next meeting we have, whenever that is.
And if you think of any questions between now and then and you want to ask them, you can email them or ask them.
I just want to say that I want to congratulate the staff, particularly Monica and Cheryl, because of what they did. Is, 3 years ago, we had an issue, our costs were going through the ceiling. And consumption of high cost utilization was going up tremendously. And what we tried to do 2 years ago helped last year, and it's even getting better this year. And so, the cost, we're leveling off those costs, that cost curve in the healthcare insurance. And so that's what we were looking for, and they've done a good job of that. So I want to say thank you and Cheryl both. Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
I just asked, so on the first page, there would be a 2% discount on each plan if that was done? Because it says is that correct?
Yeah, so the rates that you have include that 2% discount. If we would have chosen one plan, they would have given us a 4%.
Thank you.
Any other items? Hearing none, the Employee Benefits Trust meeting will stand adjourned. And I'll call into order a special city council meeting. First item is, we're going to skip item 2. We're going to pull that from the agenda, go to item 3, postponing the election.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the state of Texas, due to the emergency with COVID-19, has given us the option to delay the May election to November. The only election that we're going to have in May is a special election for the increased hotel motel tax. If we decide to proceed with the election, we'll be the only entity involved, thus our cost will be approximately $20,000
Instead of
about 10. And so staff respectfully recommends that we delay the planned May election to November.
Questions? Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Have a motion, second.
So moved.
Who made it?
Second.
I'm sorry, bro. Gerald did it all. Gerald was beat on that. Who was the first? Who made the motion?
I think Mark did.
I think
Mark made the motion.
did.
Second was
Brady.
Brady. We're gonna let Brady be the second on this one. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, got two more items here. I want to just mention real quickly before we get into the big item, which we're all waiting to deal with. I'd like to instruct that the CETA board and staff bring to council a plan to utilize some or all of their fund balance to provide financial assistance to local businesses affected by the current pandemic. Does anybody have any issues with that? Discussion.
I think it's an excellent idea. Do you have a plan for how that might be distributed?
It's a good question, Alan. I wouldn't, my intent was not to direct it right now. We'll have the ability to approve it and we can send it back to them, but I'd like for them to be the ones that come up with the plan. That'd be my intent. Now, we can modify that.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Anybody have any concern about that? We can just, it's not an ordinance, it's not on the agenda. We can just do that as direction. I was told I could do that just from here, just instruct them to do that unless y'all have an issue with it.
No, I think it's vitally important that we do that. That's what that money's for, and we need to help these people that are hardest impacted by this.
Right now, they have a fund balance, I believe, of 800,000, something in that neighborhood. So we have some funds to help out some of the businesses that they've been hurt.
And so, I know, let me see, Mike.
Got to push the button on that one.
So I do know in the past, when we've had conversations like this, there is a sticky point if the council tries to direct the way funds are expended. We're not gonna run into any issues with that by doing this?
Yes, you will.
Depends on how much direction you give them. We're asking them to bring us a plan.
And
All we're
I
asking.
don't know how much more of this we should discuss since it's not on the agenda.
Okay. I think I have the authority to ask them to do that, and we'll discuss it at the next meeting. That's what we're asking them to do, is bring us a plan. There's another item that we'll deal with it under item 4, which is consider approval of an extension of the declaration of public health emergency adopted March 18th. And there's some folks that brought me some recommendation, and so I'm going to let that, under that item 4, be discussed right now.
As part of that disaster declaration, Mr. Mayor, I would like to, I guess if we approve the extension of that declaration, then I would make the motion that we set aside $250,000 of the water sewer retained earnings and direct staff to bring a plan for those funds to be used to stimulate locally owned restaurants within the city limits of Stephenville that have been affected by COVID-19.
Second.
I have a motion, and a second. Anybody have a question, comments?
I struggle with that
But we
because
have a motion yet to extend this declaration. Now, that's not appropriate.
So we need.
So you're saying we need to
extend
extend
it first.
We can discuss what he wants to do, but we don't need a motion until we have had a motion to extend.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll
we
withdraw
have
the motion then.
Withdraw the motion, but we have a motion that's going to be coming up here in a minute, so we go through that issue then. All right. Next item then we're going to take up is the extension of the declaration of public health emergency adopted on March 18th. At this moment, we've not heard from across the county, have we?
We've not heard.
Several of us met with folks from TSU, ISD, the county, us, the hospital staff, and there were probably 20-something people on the call yesterday, and we talked about the crisis we're in, and like talked about capacity and emergencies, et cetera. And one of the things we all agreed to, that we all need to be on the same page, saying the same thing. And so as a result, right now, I know that the judge and the county commissioners are meeting as we speak, and they are discussing a declaration themselves. They already have an emergency one in place, but they're going to discuss it right now and the county's ordinance would supersede ours anyway. So whatever they have, we could either adopt or we could get more stringent than that. So I'm going to make a recommendation that what we do is we go to recess for a few minutes. Yes, sir?
Before you do, would it, and the attorney may need to speak up, but would it be appropriate to have Dr. Doggett address?
I'm sorry, Doctor. I appreciate you being on the call, and maybe let him do some discussion about.
But and that way he can go back and.
Keep you from your customers. I apologize for that. It's a good point, but we'll recess here in a minute. What the point is, after Dr. Doggett gets his information, then we told the county commissioners court that we would recess until they finish theirs. They could bring it to us. They'd email it to us. We get copies of it, and then we'll go through it item by item and see if we want to whatever they do, if it's more stringent than what we want, we're gonna have to do that anyway, what they say, because of the county. And then anything else that's on there that we want to strengthen or make more stringent, then we can always add to it. And so we're gonna adjourn here in a minute after Dr. Doggett makes his presentation. Thanks, Kathy, I appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt that. Dr. Doggett, you got the floor.
Yes. Yes, I'm not sure what the question is.
I think that Alan just suggested that what you do is you give us an overview of the COVID-19 situation in Erath County. Kind of discuss a little bit what we talked about yesterday on the phone call, for example. And maybe
Sure,
if
sure.
anything's been updated also.
Sure, and there were several other physicians present, Dr. Moore, Dr. Markham, Dr. Nash, Dr. Brisker, myself, and we were polled, and by and large, we all supported shelter in place, and I think that's where this is headed. Of course, we can't legislate or empower that, but I think that's where this is headed, whether it's enacted by the city, the county, or the state. Eventually, it'll be the state, and it'll be taken out of our hands, but I think that that's the only thing that's going to break this cycle. We are a little bit insulated here in Erath County, but we're not completely protected. As you know, we have a case here in the community, and I discussed with Dr. Moore as to whether that was community spread or if they had kind of isolated where he had become infected from, and they indicated it was from travel and exposure. Now, if we get community spread, that's a game changer. I mean, I think that's when you're going to see myself and other physicians, instead of supporting a community lockdown or shelter in place, we're going to actually be beating our chest and insisting on it at that time, because that's the only thing that's going to limit this exponential and viral spread of the disease. That's what has worked in other countries. When it gets here, yes, we are rural and we have a smaller population, but the curve and the slope of the infection is going to follow the same formula and the same slope that it has in Wuhan, China, New York City, California, etc. I mean, that's not my opinion. That's just based on math and science and the models. The model that most people are using now is based on the one came up with by the Imperial College of London, and there are a ton of different variants of this graph. And I sent a copy. I don't know if it was able to be circulated there or not, but it basically shows Texas hospitalizations over time, not infections, but actually people in the hospital. And if you can look, the day zero for the graph was several days ago. And what they're anticipating, if we did nothing, on April 27th, we'd have between 600 and 700 hospitalizations, not cases, hospitalizations. If we do implement the actions that we have, social distancing, et cetera, and so forth, limiting size of gatherings, you can see, if you have a copy of that it'll mitigate, it'll extend the length of the pandemic, but there won't be as many cases. It'll still overwhelm the number of hospital beds that we have in Texas. Now, if you have the graph and can see the blue-green line at the bottom, that's 3 months of shelter in place. And if we do that, we stay well below the black line, which is the available number of hospital beds in Texas. And keep in mind, this is based on not people that are infected. This is actual numbers of hospitalizations. So I think that's where we're headed. I think we've been appropriate and prudent up to this point. And I think you've done pretty much everything you could, short of shelter in place, which I know is going to be disastrous economically. It's going to be tough medicine. It's going to be a tough pill to take. But I think eventually, it's coming. Whether we do it as a city, the county does it, or if Governor Abbott does it, which I know he's a little resistant to at this point. But if you look at the Infection 2020 tracker and look at the state of Texas, the counties are slowly filling in. It's going to happen. So I think what I would probably focus on is developing a shelter-in-place plan. You know, what are we gonna do? What's gonna be an exempt business? What's gonna be a necessary business? I think that's where we're heading, so I would work on that plan. That's my recommendation.
Anybody have any questions, Dr. Doggett? Well, I tell you what, you did a great job of teaching us. Just as one of the things that the ministerial alliance, we met at the Cowboy Church last Wednesday, and in that they showed us a video, and I sent a link to each one of the council members and several staff that discusses the disease, how it works, all the stuff that Dr. Doggett is talking about here. And I would encourage anybody that's interested in finding out, if you really still want to know, what does it mean flattening the curve, how does it happen, etc. It's a great video to do that. It's produced by a physician that actually is responsible for the emergency room here in Steamboat, Texas, and many other hospital emergency rooms. And so the Cowboy Church has said it's okay for I to do that. I hope it doesn't over their website. Any other questions? Does anybody have any desire other than take a recess until we see the county's ordinance or the declaration?
Mayor, I might add one more thing.
Yes, sir.
You know, if you think about it, it's just been a few short weeks ago that we were hearing about this little viral outbreak in Wuhan, China. And, we were thinking, wow, that's in China, that doesn't affect us. And now it's here, now it's in New York, it's in California, it's in Florida. It's a pandemic, and it's coming, and we need to prepare. That's my take.
Anybody else?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
And so, Dr. Doggett, if the...
Why don't you take the microphone here so you can hear you?
Dr. Doggett, if the community here remains isolated and there is no, natural antibody production within this community, and 6 months from now, someone who still is a lingering carrier of this disease comes, does this start again? This whole cycle?
Well, I don't know if you're talking about herd immunity or exactly what you're talking about, but, I'm hoping that the coronavirus follows the natural course of most coronaviruses that we have every year. The coronavirus is simply a cold virus, and our children are inundated with it every year, every winter. That's why their immune system's a little bit better suited to fight off COVID-19. But usually the trajectory of the disease is that it fades out in the warmer weather. We don't know for sure that that's what's going to happen, but that's what happens with the other numerous coronaviruses. But COVID-19 could be here next year. I hope they get a vaccine.
Anything else? Other questions? Hearing none, we're going to stand adjourned until we get a copy from the county, which they said would be, they predicted 20 minutes. Well, the flight guys, it'll be 45. So we're going to adjourn for a while. At this point, it's 2:24. I'm sorry? Recess. I'm not adjourned, excuse me. We're going to recess until we get the report it's now 2:24. It's now 2:54. We're going to call back into session, the special council meeting on the emergency health plan that we had adopted, and see if we're going to extend it or change it. I want to make a couple of comments. One is, I've just been notified by the CETA staff that they are already working on such a plan, so that was good. I appreciate them doing that. Second thing is, Dr. Doggett had a comment that he wanted to clarify something.
Yes, I misspoke earlier when I was talking about this infamous graph that I produced. I had mentioned that, around April 27th, we'd have 600 or 700 hospitalizations of COVID-19, and that's 600,000 or 700,000. And also, I'd like to, I'm not a social media person, but I'm getting some feedback from some young people that work for me. Don't kill the messenger. I didn't create this. I didn't create the graph. It's just based on science, mathematics, and we have to be ideology. It is what it is. Also has some comments. Hey, shelter in place does more harm than good. We listen to the doctors need to listen to us. Hey, I feel your pain. It's not going to do me any good for my patients to not be able to work and earn income. I'm not happy about that at all. I think it's a bitter pill, and we all have to take our own dose of medicine. And to sum it up in a word, hey, trust me, I'm a doctor. That's all I got to say.
Dr. Doggett, we appreciate your input, and you're welcome to sound as long as you want. We did send you a copy of the ordinance by email that has what we're going to be talking about here. If you want to sit, you're
Yes,
willing
I
to
got
participate
that.
as long as you want to do. Thank you for being on call.
Thank you.
All right, everybody has in front of you what the county just approved, and it's my understanding they approved it by unanimous vote. Is that correct?
That's what it appeared.
It appeared to be, from what we could tell on social media, on the YouTube, that they did do it unanimously. So we have in front of us an ordinance, and the point we have at this point was, I guess you and I participated some with Alan on it, but Alfonso. But do you want to kind of walk us through this process? You've been discussing with him particularly.
As the council is aware, earlier this week, late last week, we created a census of Dallas's order, as well as the order that we did earlier and the order from other cities. All of the whereases are pretty much the same. Sorry, I forgot. All of the whereases are essentially the same. The first section is who's included in this order, and it's all individuals currently living in Erath County. The residents include hotels, motels, shared rentals, and similar facilities. They are, anytime people are using outdoor spaces, they should maintain the social distancing space 6 feet apart. Businesses shall comply with social distancing guidelines attached, including maintaining social distances for both employees and general public. It prohibits all gatherings, both public and private, outside of a single household, or living unit, except it is otherwise provided herein. It does not prohibit members of a household or a living unit to gather, or it does not prohibit that household or living unit to gather. Restaurants will be able to continue the takeout and carry out.
Mr. Barnes, if you'll use maybe the podium, I think that mic's better.
All right. This actually feels better.
There you go.
As I said, basically Section 1 applies to all of Erath County, and it outlines what a housing unit is. It also prohibits public and private gatherings that occur outside of a single household or living unit. It does not prohibit a gathering of members of a household or living unit. The restaurants will continue to do takeout and delivery and drive-through services. Religious and worship services may be provided only by video or teleconference. They must limit in-person staff to 10 or less. And they must follow social distancing guidelines. All elective medical, surgical, and dental procedures are prohibited. I think that was done by the state anyway. Section 2 discusses essential activities, that folks can engage in activities that are essential to their health and safety or to the health and safety of a family member. To obtain necessary services or supplies for themselves, or their family members or household members, to deliver services like food, pet supplies, household consumer products, etc. People can engage in outdoor activity provided the individuals comply with social distancing, to perform work or travel to and from work, including construction and agricultural services, to care for family members. It outlines child care requirements. Child care services will take a child's temperature upon entrance and will be taken throughout the day in at least 90-minute intervals, and children will be sent home if a fever exists. Child care must be carried out in groups of 10 or less. No interchanging of groups. If there's more than one group at a facility, each group must be in separate rooms. Each provider must stay with only one group and not change. Grocery stores, supermarkets, warehouses, hospitals, medical facilities are, I don't know if that's me or, okay, I'm being told it's not. Those type facilities are having high level of demand for a large number of products, requiring more and more deliveries. This Section 4 suspends delivery hour restrictions. I don't think we have any. Some cities say you can't make deliveries between the hours of midnight and 5 in the morning or something like that. Section 5, due to the increased demand for bath or toilet tissue, it does a mandatory limit of toilet tissue sales for the greater of 12 rolls per purchase or 1 package per purchase. Section 6 says that if a person in a household is tested positive for COVID-19, the entire household must isolate themselves at home, and members of the household cannot go to work, school, or other community function. A person who is sick and experiencing common COVID-19 symptoms, which are fever, cough, shortness of breath, are hereby ordered to stay home and follow the CDC's guidelines. Nursing and retirement long care facilities are instructed that non-essential visitors that they prohibit non-essential visitors from accessing their facility. The order goes into effect immediately and lasts until 11:59 p.m. on April 1st. The rest of it is just the legal language that goes with a document like this. And they have attached social distancing recommendations as their exhibit.
Anybody have any questions about it before we get into discussing it?
I've got a question or two.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, I don't see it, but just so that we all understand, the county's order did not deem any business essential or non-essential. So essentially, this does not order the closure of any business. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Because we've had this discussion, does not demand the closure, but this says to perform work, travel to, from jobs, construction, provided individuals comply with social distancing requirements of 6 feet. There are businesses that cannot do that within 6 feet that we've talked at length. Nail salons, barber shops, places
Correct.
like that. Is the understanding, lawyer, that those would be prohibited by this order?
What prohibiting 6 feet between,
It says, provided individuals comply with social distancing requirements of 6 feet.
does ours also, or are you talking?
That's the county.
It authorizes them to perform work, provided that individuals comply with social distancing requirements of 6 feet.
And tell me which section that is.
Section 1 on the first page.
Section 2.
Yeah, the bottom
Well,
section.
it mentions it,
yeah.
it's in section 1.
Two issues are in the two different sections. One is allowing them to do work, perform work, and the other one is how can they do that if they're closer than 6 feet?
Correct.
Well, those
Doesn't
are,
it say that businesses may take other precautions, including wearing protective equipment, rotating shifts, if distancing is not achievable in the workplace?
Where does it say that, Gerald? Do you know?
I don't,
It's under section 1, paragraph 2.
May take other precautions, including wearing protective equipment, rotating shifts, etc.
I think they mean additional precautions, though, not others.
That's the way I understand it.
I'm looking at that as they mean additional precautions that aren't dictated.
It says if distancing is not achievable in the workplace.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not seeing that.
I didn't see the ending.
So that answers my question.
So as long as they, and it doesn't say what that has to be in order to satisfy that.
Okay.
Where are you?
Page
It's
2.
the bottom of page 1 and top of page 2.
Gotcha. Thank you.
This would potentially apply to barber shops, beauty shops.
Tanning salon.
Chiropractors, there's a number of.
Tattoo shops.
That's correct.
That is
nail
correct.
salon.
Yes, sir.
That was your
Which-
question, wasn't it?
So,
Correct.
so in it, I guess the question then is, in the interest of making something more clear, is that something that we should make clear in the city limits?
You mean you want to you want to confirm that those places are not exempt if they can't qualify for the 6 feet restrictions?
Well,
That there's no other
if we have a
achievable
desire,
measures?
if we have a desire for those places to be regulated that way, then we need to clarify that in our order, because I don't think this one is very clear.
I would agree with you as well. I don't think it puts closes those businesses. I think it allows them, if they can achieve other means, they can do so.
If they do something, but it doesn't clarify what that
They don't have to
something
be.
is.
Correct. That's the way I take it. I'm sure Mr. Thomas can give the city official opinion, though. I'd like to go ahead, if we're going to have a discussion on it, Mayor, let's go ahead and make a motion. Maybe we can have some formal discussion if that's okay.
Okay.
So at this time, I'd like to move to amend the March 18th, 20 declaration of the City of Steve Mill Public Health and Emergency to include all provisions as contained in the March 25th, 2020 Erath County order declaring local disaster due to the public health emergency.
So,
I second that, Mayor.
Okay, Brady making the motion. I'm gonna defer the delayed response up there. Gerald, sorry. Gerald second it. I'm not gonna restate that amendment. Does everybody know what the amendment or the motion is?
Yes.
Is to amend our original motion we made, our declaration we made last week, to include the parts of this into our declaration.
But not, if we're stricter on something, we're not.
Well, I mean, if we want to,
We're accepting this, but we may amend it with
Correct.
stricter
But
provisions.
but that's a good question, because the point would be, if we adopted this and we have a more strict interpretation, our current one, does that old one, the more strict interpretation go away, or?
what's I'm saying, if we would go ahead and put this on the floor for the council.
Then we have that conversation.
Then you have the conversation, and let's take
Okay,
action
we have-
item, yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Well, I think,
We have to amend first, though.
yeah, you don't want to call it up yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
we'll
yet.
have some discussion on it.
Yeah, just
Okay.
some discussion.
Have
And-
discussion.
And Mayor, I don't mind real quick, maybe if I can get started and
Go
address a
ahead.
couple things.
Take off.
And I guess it sounds like the main issue we're gonna have up here in the council in a second is whether or not we place restrictions on the certain businesses that have to operate within 6 feet or not, and I guess we'll get at that in a second. I think there's a couple things that I'd like to suggest, though, Mayor. I proposed last night to city staff and the council a revised ordinance, and specifically some things I would like to offer as an amendment to the motion on the table currently, or the motion in front of the council, is that in the proposals I had submitted yesterday, there was a couple paragraphs that I think are very essential to our community. The first one being, it discusses that I would make an motion to amend the main motion by adding into this proposed declaration number 1, that we, and section 1, paragraph 1, 2, after paragraph 2, so the top of page 2, after the second sentence, that next paragraph, insert into it a following section, business responsibility of the public, specifically the language that I had proposed in a ordinance last night, reading into the minutes of this meeting, that business employers, employees, and customers all have shared responsibility to promote public health in the normal course of business activities. All businesses operating in the city of Stephenville are ordered to take extreme care and all actions necessary to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Extreme care and action includes, but not limited to, the following. And of course, there's about 8 different recommendations, and that the business are continue to implement those measures in order to post all measures at the door of the entrances to their businesses. I think it's just important that we highlight the need for local businesses to be proactive and to inform their customer base of what they're doing to try to be a good partner in our community. And the second amendment I would offer to this at this time, Your Honor. Okay, well, I'll offer that
What's the
first.
first one, what are you offering for the first one? Could you summarize what you're offering?
Yep, I just read it into what I just read. There was a paragraph that I had put together, business responsibility to the public. And like I said, it cited.
Section 1 that says protecting the health and well-being of citizens of Stephenville, those at high risk, that's the first line.
And what I proposed to the council yesterday, or to the
Yeah.
city staff yesterday, is actually under section 2. It's business responsibility to the public.
It's off page 3.
I just feel like it's important that we have something in here that really, I know this proposal here discusses, I think, of course, on page 1 at the very bottom, last line has that all businesses should comply with social distancing guidelines, like we were just talking about, other distancing to achieve availability in the workplace. But I think it's important that we just develop that some more for our businesses, and I think most are already doing this, but just that we can ensure the public that we understand the priority it is for businesses to take it the extra step, and also to inform their customers that what they're doing as well. So if I walk into business, I know here's what this business is doing because it's posted at the door when I walk in, so I can abide by those rules as well. Because one business might have a hand sanitation station, but might not have one, or they might have it around the corner, and just so we can businesses can direct their customers to do certain things to comply with this order and to probably be more compliant than they need to be. So that's the First Amendment. I'll offer it
So the
this time.
First Amendment includes this business's responsibility to the public.
Correct.
So can I say something to
Well,
what you suggested there?
I guess if it doesn't get a second, then it.
we don't have a
I'd like
second
a
yet.
second, but.
Well, I can second it, but can we
Sure.
add
If-
to, add to
Sure,
what
100%
you
you can. You want a
recommend?
second, you can, yep,
So I can second it, but add to what he's saying?
yep.
Okay.
Get
It's
to amend
amenable,
the
it's
amendment.
amenable to second rank. So yes, you can amend it one time.
Okay. So I'll
So you're
second
seconding
it,
Okay.
but where it says in the event of business does not have an automatic entry door, leave entry doors open for access to customers. We got an example, I believe, from Mr. Barnes this morning, that it went, and it was from Kyle, Texas. They went on to say that all entrances would have hand sanitation stations at the entrance. I'd like to amend it to do that.
Wait, all right, now, your amendment is to business responsibility to the public, you seconded it. Your-
And
your amendment
under-
is only
Hold on, let's see.
No, she's amending my proposal.
His proposal says, in the event a business does not have an automatic entry door, leave entry doors open for access to customers, which is what Kyle said. But Kyle went a step further, and that those businesses have sanitation stations.
I'll second that as well.
A hand sanitation station at all entrances.
You said we
Just
can
like Walmart and HEB already do.
Okay.
we can only have one amendment to his.
It's only amenable to second rank, yes, you can, yep.
We have
Then
a-
what do we
We have a
have?
point of order over here, a question?
I have a question real quick, so I can make sure I get these down right. This is what we're reading.
Yeah, and I had
Brady?
sent in another one
So you
today, so
want
yeah.
to add
It's
this?
all this
I-
plus there's another one here as well.
I wanted, where he has on F, and
And the one about.
hand sanitation
Orders and what, sorry.
at all
Where
entrances.
do you?
Is that,
Yep, I'm second that amendment. Amendment to amendment.
Can I get some clarification?
Sure.
Under this, item E, limit travel of employees outside the city limits, can I just clarify, that is in the course of their employment?
100%, I mean, that's.
Not limiting their employees to travel outside of the city limits for private purposes?
I think, as defined, these are all business responsibilities to the public. So, yeah, these are suggestions.
Suggestions.
Yeah, I mean, I think as it's stated, we can't make them necessarily do all these things, but
Would it be possible to put that, I mean, on the back end of their declaration, they've got the social distancing recommendations, could you put that under the business section? Would you feel comfortable with that, or do you need it in the declaration itself? They got some of the similar kind of language to what you're talking about.
like, that was originally what we had proposed as well as the city, I know, the recommendations. I mean, I feel like personally it needs to be in the declaration, because I think we want the people to know, the business to know we take this matter serious, and that these are the things that, and mainly I think out of all this is just, my intent is to inform the customers as they come into their businesses, here's what we're doing in this business. And I intend it's gonna vary from business to business depending upon what type of activity you're conducting. But I think we need, if nothing else, I mean, my intent of this is to make businesses know, put what we're doing here and make the public that's coming in informed what they're doing by posting it at the door, so.
Yes, sir.
Would it be possible, as the state has done for open carry, et cetera, that we could come up with a form that we could put on our website that businesses could download, so there would be some consistency?
You bet, it'd be a
well,
better
this
idea,
is
it'd be
what
great.
this is, right? I mean, they could just come up with this.
I think what Mr. Nick's saying is, yeah, here's the city's promulgated form, you fill in the blanks as to what you are doing in this business to comply with this
It's a good idea.
declaration. Yeah, it is,
I think
100%.
that would help, some consistency and help people recognize what they're looking for or looking to see.
I think it's a great idea.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we have an amendment and an amendment to the amendment, and the Carla's amendment is to add to Brady's amendment to our original order is to add to that, this declaration at the, no, to add to it what? Carla, can you say it one more
The
time?
entry, well, he's already got entry doors are open for access to customers, so they're not constantly touching the doors. But Kyle Texas, and my recommendation that we do the same, is that each business have hand sanitation stations at all entrances.
Okay,
To add that to
that's
Brady's.
the motion, and Brady seconded it, yes, sir?
That's the second amendment.
That's the amendment to the amendment.
Considering now, yes.
That's right, it's what we're considering right now. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now, so we go back to the original amendment, which is Brady's. Would you restate it some way with?
You bet, Mr. Mayor. So with
the new
the
amendments?
provisions that Ms. Trussell has, we've recently agreed to amend to include, the amendment before the council this time would read, inserting into this the adopted ordinance of that we have adopted or proposed to adopt in the ordinance the county has adopted, page 2, top of page 2, under the second 2 lines, add into there also a business responsibility of the public section that I had previously provided to council. And for record purposes, it states that the business employers, employees, and all customers have a shared responsibility to promote public health in the normal course of business activities. All businesses operating within the city of Stephenville are ordered to take extreme care and all actions necessary to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Extreme care and action includes, but is not limited to, the following practices: monitoring the body temperature of all employees prior to opening for business and throughout the day, daily disinfecting all services, encouraging all employees to wash hands on an hourly basis, mandating all employees and customers to abide by social distancing guidelines hereby attached, limit travel of all employees outside the city limits of the city of Stephenville, Texas. In the event a business does not have an automatic entry door, leave the entry doors open for access to customers and for a hand sanitation station to be present at all entries, and allow employees whose job functions permit them to work within confines of their home to do such. Business employers are encouraged to implement any and all measures necessary to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and are ordered to post all measures on the door of the entrances of their businesses.
Discussion.
Should the word encouraged be to required? We're just encouraging it, we're not requiring it.
We can amend it
Just
to.
ask.
I've got a question too. Again, it's just for clarification. I understand your intent, Brady, but just reading it from a literal standpoint. We're ordering them to take extreme care, and then later we say extreme care includes limiting travel of employees outside the city limits of Stephenville, Texas. There are potentially some businesses that within the normal operations of their business requires their employees to travel outside
Correct.
the city limits of Stephenville. So are we ordering that they cannot do that, or is
That's-
this a recommendation that are we strongly asking them to consider that?
Strongly asking, well, I don't know necessarily we can limit that type of travel, and nor would I propose that, but I think it's a recommendation to encourage businesses if you can limit travel of your employees outside the city of Stephenville, please do such. So I don't think the ordinance is read to prohibit travel.
I was gonna say limit does not necessarily mean prohibit.
Correct.
Got it.
But limited if possible.
Any other discussion?
So I still want to ask, where are you inserting this?
Top of page 2, Mr. McClinton, that right under I think the best place I could find was under the second, we have 2 sentences on the top of page 2, what we've been printed off and presented with. So where, of course, it ends with what we're looking at, if distance is not achievable in the workplace, then inserting this business responsibility to the public section.
So we're
Had
gonna
offered.
put it right after if distance is not achievable. We're putting all the business responsibilities right there.
I think that appears, in my opinion, to be the best place to insert that, because that appears to be in this ordinance where they've already addressed some business responsibility.
Any other discussion, questions? Gerald, I keep forgetting you're up there on the call.
No, I'm here, I've read through this, I've looked at that, and Brady, I listened to yours. Basically, what I'm saying, since the county action supersedes whatever we would do, however, we can add to that and make it more restrictive. We can't make it less restrictive, correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
So, but we can explain it a little bit more like Brady has suggested here, is that correct?
Correct.
So, I understand, Brady, what you're trying to do is encourage people.
Correct, to be a little more descriptive.
I'm not opposed to that. I mean, I think that's one of the things we can certainly do. One of the things, and Mayor, in talks that we've had in the past, can we look at this and say, are we being fair to everyone? I think we are. Are we addressing the issue? Well, the county has addressed the issue, and we're tagging along. This is a major problem. We've got to take care of it. Let's get it going.
I think it's, Alan, did you got the email I sent you last night from Dallas that had the explanation pages on it? I think I did. If you didn't get it, I'll send it to you in a minute. Dallas County came up after the judge made his declaration the other day, and they have about a 3 or 4 page document that says, like we had our discussion the other day about what's the term gathering mean. Well, they describe stuff like that. They explain, here's what this means by this. So maybe we could do it in this.
Fort Worth and Burleson had the same
Same
thing.
thing.
Yeah, like
So maybe not make it part of the declaration, put it in the explanation. Here's what we interpret a guideline, if you would.
I think the guidelines would be more important.
Okay? Alan?
How will this
That Alan.
impact? How will this impact a business who has employees that reside outside of this county? Because there are some that commute back and forth from their work to this county and then back again.
There are
Gerald, did you hear
a lot.
that question?
There's
Gerald, did you hear that question?
restriction on that. The way this is proposed, there's no restriction on that.
It says we're trying to limit their travel outside of the county. So,
Well, I think, my understanding, from what you said a minute ago, it's clarified it for me. We're asking them to limit it, but we're not prohibiting it.
okay,
So if it's necessary,
for
it's
them
not
to-
prohibited.
For them to maintain their job, that's still acceptable.
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, we have an amended motion on the floor that's seconded. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
The amendment, right? We're not voting on the whole thing. This
Correct.
is-
Just the amendment. There you go. Good
And
point.
what's the amendment?
Amended amendment.
Just
Or-
Brady inserting it right there?
Yep.
Okay.
That's right. We're voting on the amended amendment.
I have I just received a question, and we already approved the amendment that addressed this, but what do businesses do if hand sanitizer becomes unavailable? We're not, I guess that goes back to, we're not requiring that, if it's not available, you can't do it.
They come up with
Practically
a plan.
possible, we can't enforce it.
So, okay.
Or they come up with another plan to do the same thing.
Whiskey at the door.
Whiskey at the door? I'm sorry, Alan. Any other discussion, questions? We're going to vote on the amended amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Did you have some others, Mr. Pendleton?
I'll yield the floor to anybody else this time.
Anybody have any other amendments they'd like to have?
I've got a couple of things.
Okay.
This is just for one clarification. So I've looked through it and I don't see it. I know that our declaration last week specifically spelled out that no more than 10 could be in any group at a time. It had to be, and that's not, I mean, it's in the child care part. And there was 2 places I saw it, but
We
not-
also put it with beauty shops and barber shops, didn't we?
We did, but I'm saying in this, what the county has done, I see it under childcare, but I don't see it globally.
Well, if we are going to merge our two documents, where ours is more stringent, Randy, wouldn't that mean ours takes precedent? We have 10 people then?
Just a minute.
Okay, Alan's going to tell us something here in a minute, Mr. Barnes.
I'm working to find it.
Okay. Give me a second to do that.
Oh, right under where we just inserted.
Okay.
All public and private gatherings of any number of people occurring outside a single household or living unit are prohibited.
So what
it's
they're
more
saying is
strict.
there's no gatherings at all.
No gathering.
Okay, so that shuts every business down.
I think you need to, well, I wish my computer were here. I think what needs to be done is a definition of the word gathering inserted. I looked up the meaning this morning, and I can't even get to it on my iPhone. A gathering is a coming together, and I'm paraphrasing here, a coming together of a group of people for a common purpose. Is,
I looked at that too, and that's basically
that's what it meant, I don't remember the exact word. But I think you need to insert a definition for the word gathering, because that has caused so much question and consternation over the last week. We've gotten several questions about it. And I think if somebody were to offer an amendment to maybe the end of that paragraph that says a gathering is defined as gathering, coming together of a group of people for a common purpose.
Mayor, may I offer amendment, I guess? Now, I'd like to take it really a step further to clarify, I think, as far as gathering, in my opinion, that I make a motion that we amend the amended motion to include the definition of gathering, which would be the coming together of a group of people for a social purpose. I think the key is social reasons, and that's what we're trying to limit for social gathering, social purposes, not to, I guess, coming together of a group of people for social purposes, not to include essential business activities.
Okay.
Okay, Ready has an amendment on the floor?
What are you amending?
We're amending the amended motion to include the definition of a gathering, that shall be defined as the coming together of a group of people for a social purpose, not to include essential business activities.
Clarification,
Okay,
I understand that we can't lessen the restrictions that the county, has made.
correct.
And if you look at their paragraph, it says all public or private gatherings of any number of people occurring outside a single household or living unit are prohibited, except as otherwise provided herein.
That's what shelter in place was intended to be.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Dr. Doggett?
You can amend, but it's not going to supersede what's already done.
Well,
Hey, Mayor, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
make a comment if
You bet.
possible.
I still
Dr. Doggett,
think that
come on
needs
in.
to be
I came back and joined the meeting.
Please do.
it's,
Go ahead, you want to make a comment, Dr. Doggett?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hey, I'm not sure, I've been trying to see a patient or two in between, but, you know, it's come to my attention that largely the public and the citizenry is saying, we didn't do anything. They're saying nothing is different, other than we're saying, do what we've already told you, and stay inside. I'm not sure this is a real shelter in place. I don't see any teeth in it. I know that when Dallas County did shelter in place, they said if we see you out and you're not going to get food or going to a medical visit, you're subject to fine and arrest. Honestly, you know, I'll read this a little closer, but by and large, I tend to agree with what's on social media out there, that we really haven't done anything different. I mean, shelter in place doesn't mean life goes on, open your door, have hand sanitizer handy. That's not shelter in place, I think. I don't know if that falls on the county or us, but I think if we're gonna shelter in place, we should do it as it's intended to be. Maybe we need to research what shelter in place truly is a little better. I don't think this is a real shelter in place. I think it's kind of what we've done and, you know, stay inside. And that's by and large what is blowing up on social media right now, so y'all might want to check that.
and Mayor,
And, if you can make this any more stringent, I know we can't make it less stringent than the county has, but we might want to consider, you know, maybe you can give my second. 1 second.
and Mayor, if I may real quick,
Yes, sir.
I guess we'll let Gerald come back, probably Gerald's on there.
Al just sent me an email, text message that says businesses are addressed in the previous paragraph while we're looking at
Well, that's
this.
what I was just gonna say, is that, yeah, it discusses Gerald's comment.
Okay, maybe, you know, maybe myself, Dr. Moore, Dr. Markham, Dr. Nash, Dr. Brister, that were at the last meeting, maybe we could get together and go over some things with you and tell you what shelter in place is. I don't think we're there. And if you ask me, hey, what do we need to do different? I would say if anything, make it more stringent, because honestly, I don't see that we've done anything other than say, do what we've been doing, stay 6 feet apart, open your front door, have hand sanitizer ready, and, you know, stay inside. But that's, I don't think that's what we're shooting for. I don't think that's gonna flatten the curve, and I think that's what all this is about. So I'm gonna sign off. I have more patients to see. I just wanted to let you know the feedback that I'm getting from the community, and largely they feel like that the medical community's by and large being ignored, and that we're putting money before patient health. So take that to heart, and maybe revisit this. Think about making it a little bit more stringent, if anything. I know the phrase that Dr. Markham used yesterday was be as aggressive as possible. I don't think this is aggressive as possible. Dr. Nash said, hey, let's get out in front of this. I don't know if this is really changing anything and getting out in front of this. But, you know, being the health authority and acting in my capacity as an advocate for the public and actually as an officer of the state in this role, I urge you to look at this and you know, not split hairs over numbers, but I think we need to either make it a real lockdown or not do it. I don't think we're accomplishing anything with this. So that's my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth. Like I said, I'll be glad to meet with the council. I'll be glad to meet with a panel, including some other doctors, and get some recommendations, if that'll help. But otherwise, thank you for your time, and take your constituents' wishes to heart, and I'll be back in touch if you need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
I think Gerald, your comments you made about your interpretation of what the county's already done as far as public and private gathering. I think the ordinance goes into further detail allowing businesses to continue. I don't think when it talks about essential business activities or business, what's the term they use here, essential business or businesses in general, I think the ordinance already presented by the county does not shut in any business, in my opinion. So I think the definition I have proposed as an amendment defines gatherings, but I think there's a need to do that because I think the ordinance still allows businesses to continue to operate.
Other discussion?
Okay.
So I guess I would just re-urge, Mayor, I have a motion, I don't know if I have a second yet, so I don't know if there's.
It does not have a second yet.
So can you repeat your?
Yep, I had moved to amend the amended motion by adding the definition of gathering, and a gathering to include the coming together of a group of people for a social purpose, not including essential business activities or.
You said activities, is what you said, that's what I wrote
Okay.
down.
So it would limit people standing outside your house, but it does not limit people standing outside your business
Or inside your business.
or inside your business.
Because I don't think this ordinance does that.
But we can limit people in businesses, that's what Breckenridge did, and I think we need to discuss
Well,
that.
we'd have a second right now.
Okay.
Is that
Not, it doesn't.
Second.
Okay, we have a second.
I would like to make the comment, this is confusing at best for the citizens that are watching us do this. I think for this to be better, and I know this is not about, well, it's not about that. I think we should adopt our own, continue to work with our document, make it stronger as we see fit, instead of trying to merge to a document we got
I think that's probably a
One-
good idea.
20 minutes ago. We have our document. I think that there can be calls to make amendments to our document. Of course, the county supersedes that, but we can tailor our document instead of trying to
Merge to.
merge two documents right here. And I think we've had some examples that have been sent out of ours that would make that much easier and much less confusing to our citizens.
Have you seen this, everybody?
My only question is, do we have a copy in front of us of last week's document? Because I'm going to need one.
Well, right now, we have a motion, an amendment, a motion and a second on the floor to amend
The amended motion by inserting the definition
by
of gathering.
inserting the definition of a gathering, so is a social gathering, whatever, as you said earlier. Any further discussion about that, and then we'll come back and we'll address your point. Let's proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes. All right, let's go back to your comment then. Discuss that some more. I think that's, in a sense, that's what Dr. Doggett was telling us. And the question.
I believe that, and I know there's been staff sending working documents on this because this doesn't happen. And I know that it's frustrating to people watching this. It's how sausage is made, but this is how open meeting acts work. It's discussed in public. So I think that some of the stuff that's been sent out, I think Councilman Thurman sent out a plan that had some call outs to add to what we've currently done that I think make a lot of sense. And I think that would make this much clearer to our citizens and make this process a lot better and easier for us as well. So,
Alan, when do we have our town hall scheduled?
Monday.
This coming Monday.
It can be sooner or later.
Well, I was thinking maybe the way to do this is, and we were gonna follow the counties anyway, unless we make it more stringent. And ours expires, the other one we wrote tonight, right? Midnight?
Tonight at midnight.
So it goes away at midnight. So anything we've done that's more stringent is over with tonight at midnight. And maybe what we should do is between now and then is compile a group of those specialists in a room with us and have a conversation, a work session on this.
I would just say if there's gonna be some of those, I think we should invite some more in. I've talked to some other specialists that disagree, that are local, that are elected representatives that have some significant knowledge in this field. So So if that's the case, I would like to see a broader panel.
Absolutely. I'd let you be able to make a nomination or a recommendation that big.
Well, I think we've got,
And add to that, Mr. Mayor, I mean, I don't, please take this the wrong way, and it's not that I know Dr. Doggett and people that spoke to the city yesterday have the public's intentions best at heart. I know they do, and I believe their advice 100%. It's not that I don't discredit their advice at all. But I think, you know, what Ricky's saying is that we have to be willing to consider all people's opinions, all medical providers' opinions. I know there's conflicting opinions because the bottom line is this: we don't know all the details about this. We don't. And so for us to be so focused on what one group of people say about here's what the best course of action, I think Ricky's 100% correct. It's prudent to us, prudent to the city, that we include anybody and everybody who has a medical advice or opinion that's qualified, not just the people on Facebook to give one, that can give us some insight and advice so we can make the best decision. Because I feel like when you begin once to get tunnel vision, focus on just one group of people or one issue, we're going to lose focus on the whole bigger picture. So I agree, Ricky's 100%. So whoever we can get invited into that can maybe paint a different picture or bring a different perspective, I think would be helpful to all of us. And I think it'd also be helpful, I mean, to get other people in the community that aren't business folks, that aren't medical folks. Let's get business folks and the moms, the dads, and the teachers. I mean, whoever we can invite. And it becomes very frustrating at this time when we're limited on our public discussion to hear from the public other than what comments see on Facebook. And that's, of course, a horrible source of information at times. I mean, I think it's good that we have that to hear some feedback, but I would love for this to be some type of public comment. I know we're restricted on how we can do that, but I think it's important. We do everything we can to encourage public comment and to encourage having a good group of people come here and give us advice and guidance.
I agree on the experts, but we're, as elected officials, the citizens elected us to meet with those people, talk to those people, which I have been, and I know that y'all have been too, to make those decisions. And so this isn't, I don't think this is something that can be delayed for an extended period of time. We have to be decisive. Sometimes leadership is hard and you have to make hard decisions. And you have to do your homework when you're not sitting up here. But we absolutely, I've talked to some of those people. I would say the majority of the medical professional people I've talked to tend to agree with what Dr. Doggett said. Are there one or two? Absolutely, that disagree. And we have to take everything into account. But we can't delay what we're deciding for a week when we're dealing with something of this nature, in my opinion.
Brandon's 100% correct. That's why we need to take action right now instead of postpone it till Monday. I mean, we've got a motion before the council to take action. Let's take action, and I think we all agree it's a fluid situation, and we'll revisit as needed.
Any discussion?
so we have a motion that needs to be voted on, is that?
We have a motion, well, what we have so
Amended
far,
motion.
we have an amended motion
Amended motion to accept.
to accept this, or no, it was originally to merge it into our existing one. Was that all right, Brady?
The actual motion before the council at this time is to approve amending the March 18th, 20 declaration of the public health and emergency to include provisions contained in the March 25th, 2020 Erath County order declaring local disaster due to public health and emergency, to include the following amendments that we have passed, that being the insertion of a paragraph regarding business responsibilities, also inserting the definition of gathering. So those are the changes that we have approved as a council up to this point, and that's the actionable item before the council at this time.
It is not a motion to include the county's order within ours.
No, it is.
It is, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm trying to make sure we understand.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I've got one other thing, and this came up today. I visited with a couple folks here already, and that was the possible inclusion in this, and maybe as this continues, the future emergency declarations to say that the city of Stephenville will not terminate utility services due to lack of ability to pay during the duration of this. And I would offer that as an amendment to this.
But that would just be for water, right?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to, where would you like to insert that? Have any idea, suggestion? Okay. We're gonna allow Stacy to figure out where to insert that?
I will take care of that.
Sir?
She said she'd take care of it.
She'll take care of it for us. Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Let's proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed? Oh. Okay, I have one no. Motion passes. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I think Brandon was recommending that we, rather than adopt the county's proposal, amend the proposal that we received in print when we arrived. Am I understanding that right?
No, amend the document that we're, working document that we had
Had
last week.
Amend the original document?
Correct.
Okay.
And what Brady is doing, is two motions have been to merge this into that with the changes that he's suggested, that we passed.
Not exactly.
I think the easiest thing in my intent was, Mr. Nix, was we know we have in place the county's declaration. So using that as the guide for us, make what changes we need to make for the city of Stephenville and call it good. I think that's the simplest way to do it when we start trying to recreate a whole new document that we're now going to adopt that may be in conflict with what the county's done. The easiest way is to take theirs as the guide, which we're doing currently, go through it, and make the markups we want to make, either more restrictive or whatever changes, additions we want to add to it, and make that the city of Stephenville's declaration. I think if we're going to try to recreate a whole new one, I guarantee you there's going to be provisions in conflict with one another. Then we're going to ask Mr. Thomas, how do you interpret those conflicts, provisions of conflict, and it's just going to muddy the waters. No doubt about it. So I think the cleanest way to do it is, as we are, is taking the declaration from the county they just passed, making it also mirror what the city wants to do, plus any additions or changes we want to make.
I don't disagree with that, Brady, but I did not understand that to be what Brandon was requesting or recommending.
He wasn't. He made this motion. He disagrees with him and thinks we ought to take the original declaration we had the other day and use it as our guideline and do whatever else we want to today. But that's not what Brady made the motion about.
So what we have right now is we have what Brady suggests
But
as a
that's
forward
passed,
amendments
so-
is passed.
Passed.
And we can always, and if it doesn't, we haven't voted on that yet, the whole motion, right?
Nope.
So if it fails, then we go back and consider something else.
Correct. It,
Yes, sir.
just in case that motion does pass, I'd like to offer a couple of amendments, because I absolutely agree that we need to do some things that are more stringent than what the county has done.
Hang on.
And
Don't have a motion from Mark.
We
I
were,
think
We
we just
voted
voted
it.
on
Yep, passed that.
yes, sir. That's
Okay,
right.
so-
I've been there twice today already.
I do think we need to do it, and these are some of the ideas that I sent. Brady's motion took care of some of these things, but there's a couple that I'd like to address and discuss. So I'd offer as a motion that in an effort to not only allow for safer shopping environment for seniors and allow them sufficient opportunity to find the goods they need, but also to help manage traffic flow throughout the week and certain times of the day, order that between the hours of 6 a.m. and noon on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays be designated shopping times exclusively for those age 60 plus in all grocery stores, general stores, and dollar type stores. This should explicitly exclude hardware stores, pharmacy, and other software goods stores. 60 plus shoppers may shop at any other time they wish. That would be my motion.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion?
Now, the reason I feel like this is a good idea is I think we've got to do something to help control the influx of traffic early in the mornings at the grocery stores. We've got to do something. Anything we do, I think we've got to be changing the habitual human behaviors that we're seeing. I think this will help control the traffic at certain times. It provides that high-risk group of 60 plus that the CDC has identified as high risk. That allows them 3 opportunities throughout the week with more than 1 hour. The retailers are doing this for the most part for an hour a day, and that's great. I'm just not sure that's quite enough. I appreciate them doing that. But this will allow several hours, 3 days a week, for those high-risk groups to come in and at a time where they have the opportunity to get the goods they need and they haven't been bought up by somebody else while they're waiting on crowds to thin out. The other thing I hope it will do is it also naturally, because this 60 plus group has hopefully done their shopping on these 3 days a week during this time, the rest of the time hopefully that helps the traffic for everybody else.
Any other questions, comments?
It just seems like to me 6 hours is a lot. I mean, the hour's not very long, but 6 hours is an extreme amount of time for a store just to cater to one segment of the community.
Well, it's 18 hours a week. That's how I look at it. that they've
So
got
that's
some
almost half
protection.
a working week that we're giving this to the senior citizens. Half of,
Half a working week, but not half of the
Well, I
period
know,
that they're
I
open
know.
and available, so. I hear what you're saying,
It
and
just
I'm
seems
open to
like
narrowing
maybe-
that down.
I
I
would-
just think
I
we
would-
need to have some specifics.
I would like to make an amendment to move that to 6 AM to 10 AM, 6 to 10.
Second.
That allows before that allows before work and then during work, but we're not restricting people that may have to go get something. Because people are gonna continue to work to go at their lunchtime, so. But I agree, I think it slows down the lines at the grocery store.
Read the days of the week one more time, please.
I recommended Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Okay, a motion by Brandon to amend the amendment, and Brady seconded it. Any discussion?
can we have some discussion about,
That's
well,
why I
go
asked-
ahead, Alan.
I'm sorry, I
doesn't
didn't
matter.
look up, I asked that question, I wanted to say anything, I'm
I
sorry.
was just gonna ask it, did I understand 6 AM to 10 AM was the amendment of what?
Yes,
Okay.
On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
What days did you say?
Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
All right.
Mark, you had a question. Go ahead.
You really want me to?
Go ahead, get into it.
I think the only issue I have with this, and I mean, it's a great idea, I guess, but Dr. Doggett and the others, the experts here, I think the age group that you're targeting are the very people that we don't want to be out at all. We don't want them out anywhere for their own protection. And so, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
But any shelter in place, you're leaving, they have to get food, so groceries staying open, so it's a way to build a barrier, allow them to hopefully do curbside, hopefully do delivery, which our local businesses are doing, but at least you're not having the 75-year-old person having to wait in a line every day, no matter what day they go. If they don't have a smartphone technology or how to do that, they have a designated time to actually go to that store to get bread, to get the necessities that are in place, is my understanding. Any shelter in place, even a shelter in place, I believe that Dr. Doggett's talking about, you still have to maintain the food supply line for some point in time.
You gotta have food, you gotta have medicine.
You gotta have food and medicine, and I think this just helps gives those people a better protection.
But are you putting the most vulnerable group together at the same time?
Yes, but you're also protecting them from the children who tend to be asymptomatic, so their parents don't know that they are infected, and you're not forcing you're allowing those seniors to shop at a time where they don't have to stand or be in the midst of a group of people who has no idea that they're infected and is passing it to them.
Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
I did want, as I looked at what Stevens County did, and HEB's already done this, but because I've had people say to me in the last few days, well, a shelter in place, it still allows people to go to the grocery store and it allows people to go to the pharmacies, and they're still gathering, and they're gathering in big groups by being in those big box stores. So what Breckenridge did is, for their Walmart, they limited it to how many could be in there at a time, 100, and they put that in their ordinance. We already have HEB doing it, but I'd like to see Walmart limit how many are in Walmart at a time too, even though that's necessary to get groceries. Limiting it, how many people are in there, I think what Stevens County did was a good idea. I'm just throwing that out for discussion. And HEB is already doing that.
HEB should it voluntarily.
Voluntarily, they're doing it, but Stevens County put it in there. They restricted certain businesses. They restricted Walmart to 100 customers at a time. They have a CVS pharmacy. They restricted it to 15 customers in there at a time.
Okay, we have a motion, second on the floor to amend the amendment. And we can vote on that, and if we want to add that in there, we can do that as another amendment. Is that
Okay.
correct? Okay. Any further discussion about the amended amendment? Amendment to the
Would
amendment.
you
Can you
repeat it?
Could you please restate it?
I'm gonna let Ricky restate it.
You want the amended version?
The amended version.
It would be,
Now wait, what we want is your amendment, your first amendment.
my first one. Okay, the original
But then
motion,
you
the original
say-
amendment was to
Allow the elder shopping time.
allow 60, to mandate 60 plus, 60-year-old and older to shop from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Mondays, Thursdays. I'm sorry, the original was 6 a.m. to noon on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays in all grocery stores, general goods stores, dollar type stores, explicitly excluding hardware stores, pharmacies, and other soft goods stores. 60-plus shoppers may shop at any other time they wish.
And
That was seconded.
that was seconded. Now we had an amendment. But amendment from Brandon, which was to change that to 6 a.m. to 10.
6 a.m. to 10
a.m.
10 a.m.
Yes.
On the same days.
Have a second on
And we
that.
have a second on that. Yes, sir.
Vote on that one first.
Okay, we're gonna proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. Amendment passes. So then we'll go back to the original amendment then, as it's amended now, to create a special shopping time in those specific type stores we talked about. Any other discussion about that amendment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now, anybody else have a recommendation or a suggestion of an amendment?
You really want to?
Come on, sir.
Well, can we,
Well, let's tell you what, you had a, you wanted to
I
discuss
wanted-
something. Let's go.
I'd like to, is an amendment, I'm making an amendment.
Yeah, if that's what you wanna do.
I want to amend this to limit Walmart and H-E-B to 100 customers at any time.
Those specific two stores.
Can it be,
Well,
wider
that's all,
than that?
we can,
Let's,
but
let's say, Alan, he has something to say about that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the Walmart store in Breckenridge is about 60,000 square feet. The Walmart store here in Stephenville is 125,000 square feet. During the senior time, what was that, yesterday? Seems like a week ago. During the senior time yesterday, they accommodated approximately 400 people during that hour. Being over 60, I was there. There was, at no time did it seem crowded in Walmart. There was sufficient room to exercise social distancing. I certainly do not, I'm not going to stand here and request that you let 400 people in at Walmart. That's, of course, up to you. But upon request of the manager, he did request that you take the store size into consideration.
And specifically, they do have people at the front door that check on the person's age, ability to come in at that age group.
During the early,
So they're governing that right now.
they did last Tuesday. I was upset because they didn't ask for my ID, but,
Well, but Alan and I showed up, they let us in without any question.
yeah.
Okay.
I had a, well, never mind, this doesn't matter, we already
Okay,
passed that.
we have a motion. Do we hear a second on the motion? To limit to Walmart and H-E-B to 100. Do we hear a second? Hearing no second, the amendment failed, dies. Next amendment, anybody else? Second.
All right, at the request of a local pharmacist, I think we all got this request, I'd offer an amendment that would require individuals who are exhibiting symptoms of being ill to utilize drive-through or delivery pharmacy services whenever possible.
Second.
I agree with that. That was on my list.
Okay. Any further discussion, or any discussion? The point that pharmacist made was that it's not being, we're not being responsible about that now.
Correct. There are ill people walking into the grocery stores, potentially infecting shoppers when there are drive-throughs available, and delivery services for some of our
And
others.
Walmart did say that they're going to start curbside service for their pharmacy, so.
So
Other
that-
discussion?
Do
that
all
is
of
the-
our do all of our pharmacies now have curbside service?
Right on River North Pharmacy,
I
not
don't
maybe.
know.
River,
I-
yeah.
Carla just said that
They're not
Walmart
wet.
does not, but Carla said she felt like they were fixing to start that. But this is, the amendment is when available, so that does not preclude people from, if Walmart is their pharmacy of choice, they're not precluded from walking in there. If no other option's available.
Okay, Gerald?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Amendment has been, we have amendment, motion for amendment and second by Brady. All in favor, say aye.
Well, before you do that.
Oh, yeah, you got one more, okay.
I'm sorry.
That's right, that's right.
So I'm just looking at the county declaration under section 6. So, any person who is sick, experiencing common COVID-19 symptoms, including fever, cough, shortness of breath, are hereby ordered to stay at home and follow the CDC guidelines on how to discontinue. So, I mean, isn't that person, if they're, I mean, aren't they already covered under this without adding anything, or am I wrong there?
They are.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. Yeah, I think so. They're actually ordered to stay home and,
Ordered to stay home.
ordered to stay home and not,
So let me ask a question then. In that particular case, could we make that your motion to amend as part of the instructions or explanations we have instructed staff to come up with and put at the end of this? Like the definition of distancing or gathering, et cetera.
I think it's covered.
I think it
Because
is
it is
I think it's
covered.
already covered.
I think it's already covered. I think you're right, so,
Withdraw your-
so
You're
I
gonna
could,
withdraw?
I would withdraw my motion.
Okay, any others? Yes, sir.
Did ATB change their store hours to not open until 8 o'clock?
Do you have here?
I believe they
I think
did,
that's
but
correct.
the senior, it doesn't order them to open at 6.
It's just when they're available to open.
Okay, well, that,
So if they continue with those hours, then seniors would be, they'd be open for seniors from 8 to 10.
And one less hour. Anything else?
We have an open motion on the table, we get a vote on the last amendment.
We had it withdrawn.
With Drew.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
I
We're having trouble following all of ours, so it's fine.
I would, because we talked earlier about achievable within 6 feet. I think it's something we need to have a discussion about, because the last thing we need is businesses to be using PPE in this time that aren't going directly to our medical professionals that there's a shortage of. So I would like to, I would like to have a discussion on one-on-one businesses that can't maintain that. And I know that there maybe need to be a list. I'm not sure how to make that motion to clarify that, to make that as clear as possible, because I've seen it done several different ways. But I think that unfortunately, we're at a time and place where that needs to happen. So I will make a motion that orders the closing of the following personal service businesses, including but not limited to tattoo, body piercing, parlors, salons, barber shops, nail salons, massage parlors, and massage activities ancillary to other business unless prescribed by professional healthcare provider, and all meeting spaces to include residential, hotel, or outdoor, which I think is probably covered in the county, but
Can we add tanning to that?
tanning,
Is that in your motion?
it is, and I would like to have tanning in there.
Okay. We'll want an amendment to amendment there. Have a
Second.
motion and a second.
Second.
Discussion.
I got some discussion on that. I
Yes,
think
sir.
we are crossing a line at this point that we all need to be mindful of. And I know we've been bordering on it up to this point, but I want people, I think, to think of this as well. And I know it's sometimes difficult in times like this to not think of all sides of the issues and all things considered. But what we're doing is never happened before in our city and probably in our whole country. And we're asking to go against a declaration and a Bill of Rights that has been created in allowing for government intrusion, that once you open that door, it's never going to close. Never. So you think now we need to do these things. The government needs to come in and and tell what businesses can and cannot operate, and we're okay with it for now, but we wait till the next event occurs, and trust me, there'll be something else that you've opened the door now for the government to come in and dictate what can and cannot remain in business. And I think that is a crucial issue we'll have, not for today's purposes, but down the road when something else happens. So I just think we need to keep that in mind as we move forward, that as soon as the government begins to intrude in these issues and open that door and violate constitutional rights, and that's something that for me personally, I know I'm going to get probably a lot of backlash on this, but what I tell people I do for a living, I'm not a lawyer. I'm one of two groups of people who get up every single morning and defend the Constitution. Myself and armed forces are the only two groups of people in this whole entire country who that's what their job is, to defend the Constitution. And that's what I'm continuing to do, whether it's in a courtroom, whether it's up here on this dais. I will defend the Constitution. I think when we start telling people they can't be in business, we've crossed the line.
Further discussion?
Hey, if you have that point of view, is it your constitutional right to defy the shelter-in-place order? I mean, you've got to look at this from a medical standpoint. This is not, you can't lawyer this, and you can't legislate this. You have to listen to your medical professionals. And if you'll, you know, Doug can vouch for this. I know you weren't at the meeting yesterday with 5 physicians, but you're not sheltering in place if you don't put some teeth in this. You have got to listen to what we're telling you. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician, I'm a doctor, and I'm an advocate for the community. I think Brandon's idea is brilliant. I mean, we've got to have some teeth in this. It's not your constitutional right to be able to spread COVID-19 through the community.
And Dr. Doggett, I agree with you 100% on what you're stating, but
Conspiracy theory.
I don't think it's conspiracy theory.
Pandemic.
I agree with you 100%, Dr. Doggett. 100% I agree with you on that issue, but I think that's why it goes back to we've got to put sound policy in place that encourages every individual to take this serious, every business to take this serious, and to do some self-responsibility and self-policing.
By taking away Brandon's recommendation, I know you don't particularly have trust for what I say.
Oh, no,
Listen to the other 5, the other physicians that were at that meeting yesterday.
Dr. Doggett, I don't disbelieve.
To support shelter in place, not be nice and stay away from your neighbors.
Dr. Doggett, I don't disbelieve anything you're saying, so
This
please
is
don't take
what
it
we're
personal.
telling you.
I don't disbelieve what you're saying. I'm not intending to be personal
Let me
at all.
interject here, Chair, take over for a second. One of the things that is it is clear that this is one of the most passionate issues that this council has faced in the 9 years I've been on council. And there's no doubt about that. And there's all kinds of views. And I remember I was speaking with my daughter the other night, who is a nurse practitioner. She's a nurse, not a nurse practitioner, she's a nurse, she's a practicing nurse. And as we were visiting, it struck me that 5-10 years from now, when I'm sitting on the back porch with my grandbabies sitting on my lap, well, they won't be sitting on my lap at that time, but they're playing with me. What we're going to do is I'm going to say, you know, one of the things I don't want to do is not do something, is not act, and 40 people died because I didn't do something. And that's where we've got to come down on the side. I think it's what Dr. Doggett is saying. But what we're going to do, though, is, and I'm going to just interject some more stuff here. I'll take the chair, take some liberty here. One of the things I did for all those who are watching is I sent out a list of every business that, well, I probably not every business in town, but there was, 70 businesses, 100 businesses maybe, list of these council people, and said, I want you to go talk to these folks. Go ask them what they think, what we've done, what we should be doing, what you're willing to do, how will it affect you if you get this far, that far. And I'm not going to tell you who all went to whom, but there were lots of visits to businesses. And the perception is, and I'm sure I probably got everybody's input. Not everybody got everybody's text messages and emails. But I can tell you that the perspective is from this side of the bench to this side of the bench. And some of the businesses that I won't name them, but it said, shut her down. I thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe that person said that. And some of them said, please don't. And in the middle, there's all kinds of people in the middle. There were businesses who stepped up and said, I gave to each of y'all the plan. I talked to Greg Bruner the other night, and he said, what do I need to do? I said, I need to know what you're going to do to protect the citizens of Stephenville. He sent us a plan. He said, I sat down with my employees. We came up with a plan to protect the citizens, and I urge y'all to consider that in your ordinance. That's what we need to have, more dialogue like that. And so we're going to finish this today, pass an ordinance or a declaration, or whatever it's gonna be called. And I'm gonna call a meeting then, and I'm gonna bring in some of the other folks. I'm gonna ask y'all to tell me who they're gonna be. And we're gonna have a conversation about that. Dr. Doggett, you're our specialist. I'm gonna ask you to be there if you would. So we need to get with you and some of the others, and their availability. But we need to have that conversation, and talk about it in a reasonable way, very organized. And y'all are welcome to get with me and suggest how we set up that up. But I think we've got to, at the end of the day, today, we have an ordinance, a declaration that expires at midnight tonight. And we've got to pass something tonight. And it's obvious that we're not going to get a whole lot more. I mean, there may be 50 more, I'm sorry, Ricky, you might have 50 more amendments, I don't know. But there's been a lot of dialogue about this. And the problem is, it is moving so fast every day. I get the emails like Dr. Doggett does from the Department of State Health Services. I've gotten about 7 of them since we've been sitting here, of changes or updates or whatever. This is moving like a waterfall is. And the problem is, how do you drink out of a waterfall? You can't. So we're gonna have to do the best we can at this point, but we're gonna have to be sure that we protect the citizens. That's what our job is, more than anything else. And so I'm gonna suggest that I'm just gonna call a meeting and have us all in the room. We're gonna bring some professionals in. I think Dr. Dockett's correct in that respect. I do respect the fact that the council has to make the decision. It's the 9 of us that have to vote. Dr. Doggett is there to make recommendations, and we all respect his, and it wasn't just him, it wasn't just Dr. Markham, it's Dr. Nash, Dr. Moore, there were others on the phone as well. And I think we need to have that input, but at the same time, the 9 of us that are in this meeting today have to stick our hand up in the air and say one way or the other, and then we're gonna have to live with that. And so I'm gonna continue going on, and I think we have right now a motion to amend on the floor. And it's closing. It basically, I'm gonna say one-to-one business is what you called the other when we talked about it, and you went through the list, which included tanning salons.
Correct.
Does anybody have any questions about what that amendment is?
No second yet, I don't.
Yes, we have a second. Ricky seconded it.
Okay, all right.
That's all right. Albeit for me not to keep us straight today.
And so can I just and Dr. Doggett, that is what you would recommend with these service businesses?
I think what Brandon recommends is a good start. And I'd like to say I'll be available for any meeting, and I would urge the mayor to invite Dr. Moore, Dr. Nash, Dr. Markham. Dr. Markham's indicated that he would meet. Let's get more input than me, so.
Well, I had a lot of long conversation with him on the phone, and he sent me lots of information that I shared with everybody here as well. So we'll make sure that enough people in that room and folks from every perspective as well. You had a comment you want to make?
Yeah, I just was, the reason I second this and can support this one, I have struggled so hard with closing any businesses. I mean, we know that from the last time we met. And as I talk to businesses around town, at Doug's initiative that he put out, it's incredible to me what our businesses are already doing on their own. Our employers are doing. We have a major employer that sent 350 of their employees home to work remotely. We have employers that are buying lunch from our local restaurants and delivering it to their facility so that their employees don't have to leave and go out and be reinfected out in the public. They're not allowing any non-employees in the building. They're shutting down their common areas in the building. They're taking incredible steps on their own without us mandating that they do so. And I commend all of them for doing that. But I've also talked to some of the smaller ones that say, hey, I might survive 30 days and have a massive hole to dig out of. Beyond that, I may not be able to recover ever. And so I'm very cognizant of that. But this one, as bad as I hate to close a business, there is no way for these type of businesses to put those procedures in place to help protect themselves and their customers and their employees. And seeing no other way to protect themselves, that's why I support this particular measure.
Anybody else?
Can I just
Yes,
ask
ma'am.
one? Go
I've
ahead.
seen the very same thing. I've contacted a lot of the major businesses and some of the smaller businesses in town in the last 2 days. I have found a lot of our businesses, in fact, everyone that I've talked to, has done an extraordinary job of distancing their employees, of stopping any social contact inside, not even allowing their employees to come to work early or anything like that, because they do not want them to get into groups to talk. Splitting their shifts so that they have fewer people at work at any given time, maintaining businesses.
Well, the county's is still April
We've seen this
1st.
from a lot of the businesses here, but the type of businesses that Brandon and it refers to in this particular thing are the type of businesses that have one-on-one personal contact. And as much as I strongly, we all use some of these services, as much as I strongly feel for them, folks, we're in a very difficult situation, I think. And I think we've got to take some tough stands. And one of those is to ask that these businesses close. And at least for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is that we come up with for the distance or the duration. Because we've got to get a handle on this, or we're gonna have people die.
Carla?
I just wanted to ask, because I know several of us have looked at the declarations of other cities. As you've looked at the other declarations, and I know you two have, and I have you seen other cities that closed these particular?
Nearly every one of them.
Okay.
Further discussion?
I would just like to say, I am not for closing businesses. I believe in the Constitution. I think, as our president has said, and other times, this is a time that's never happened in our country, and we have to make certain sacrifices and certain things that we've done in other times when our country was at peril. It's a terrible decision to have to make, but I think it protects the most amount of citizens that we can, and I'll just lay it out there. I'm going to base my decision on what physicians say, and I haven't talked to 1, 2, 3, 5. I've talked to probably 15 to 20, and I understand the economy's strong, but I stand by what I said, that if we do what is right, that we're out of this faster, and I think that helps the economy faster.
Anybody else?
Last thing I'll say real quick, I know the county ordinance, just so if people didn't understand this, is only effective till April 1st. And so I understand we're talking about a short time period, thankfully. My biggest concern, though, and it deals with if this was a true shelter in place or closing businesses, I can assure you, once you take that step, there is no returning. This is the last resort. We're 7 days into this current ordinance. We don't know if it's in effect at this point. In my opinion, it's too premature. So once you close these people down, over half will never reopen. So if we're willing to take that risk and do that, this is not about sacrificing the public's health. It's not. You as a business owner have a responsibility to ensure the public remains healthy. That is your responsibility to our citizens of Stephenville. And maybe I have too much confidence in our local business. I think we've all agreed. Then we've seen it firsthand, local businesses exceeding what we're recommending to keep people safe. And I do have confidence in those folks that are going to do those things. And so even though they may have one-on-one contact, I think there's steps they can take to ensure safety of the public. And ultimately, if those folks don't want to attend those places, then they don't have to attend those places. That's a risk you assume by going out. But I hope and I think people are becoming more aware. They're becoming to think that this is a serious issue, whether you did or not at the beginning. It is a serious issue. And I think these are restrictive measures. And once you close these businesses in place, I promise you at least half will never reopen.
Anybody else?
So I
Yes,
guess
Alan.
it boils down to, are you for life or death? Which way you want to go?
I don't think that's the question, Gerald, at all.
I think that is part of the question. But
You gotta stop
One at a
the
time.
spread. You've heard that from the professionals, so what are you willing to do?
I don't think that's the
And
question
I
at all.
think
It's
some
unfair
of
to
the
present it
steps,
that way.
and I think some of the steps we're taking is we're going to try to help those out. CETA is already working for a plan to try to help some of those local that will be directly affected by some of this.
I think that's
Um,
important
and-
because
and
our next steps
not-
would be, how are we going to help the businesses
Correct.
that are severely impacted? And that's the next step that our city has to address. And I think that we have the ability to do some of that. And so, let's go ahead and do this. Let's shelter in place. Let's make the tough decision. And let's go ahead and then start figuring out a way that we're gonna help these people.
I'm just gonna make one comment, then we're gonna proceed to vote. And that is, the word shelter in place, if you listen, and that's a big term. But if you listen to
Yes, it
Dr.
is.
Doggett, the term shelter in place is not what we're doing here. It's just nibbling on the edges of it. Okay, we're gonna proceed to vote. Yes, sir. I'll make sure we all get in here, I promise you.
Well, I don't disagree with what Brandon's saying. My question is, and this is probably a separate issue, but we, by using the county's document, limit travel of anyone in the city to what is considered an essential cause. Essential activities, I beg your pardon, essential activities. They are very specific and very limiting in that, except for to perform work or travel to and from jobs, including, and it lists a few. It's very vague on what essential activities are.
They did that on purpose, I think.
I think intentionally so, which would leave some of the questions that Brandon has raised about, are those activities essential, open unless we address it, I think.
Well, I think what he's trying to do is address it, make it specific.
And I agree, because the vagueness in this does leave that door open, but if we close that door, I think that's what Dr. Doggett is suggesting, and I think that's what the majority of healthcare professionals in the state and basically in the nation that I have heard recommend. And shelter in place is not the same as stay at home. There's a big difference
It's
there.
part of it, there's more to it.
There's a lot more to it, and we have left some avenues for people to maintain a job, but we don't specify which jobs are essential, that may be something we need to address.
I think there will be some of that discussion when we have our conference with our specialists. Thank you,
Okay.
Alan. Anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Record reflect no, please.
Okay, reflect one no,
On that also.
2 noes. Okay.
I got
Anything,
one more.
one more, come on.
All right, one more. I would offer a motion to amend to set aside $250,000 of the water and sewer retained earnings and direct staff to bring a recommendation to council for a plan to use those funds to be used to stimulate locally owned restaurants within the city limits of Stephenville, Texas, affected by COVID-19.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Write that down. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, are we limited to 250,000 from that fund?
Yes, sir.
Can it be higher?
It can be. It's what's called retained earnings, is what we're not,
Same thing as fund balance.
it's what you have cash in the bank, you're not obligated. It's
That's what we have.
unobligated
Is
funds.
that the amount?
We didn't ask the number. We took when I discussed that earlier with Alan, it was X number of dollars times the X number of households. We had 5,400 households, and we just came up with the number. It's out of the sky. We had to cut, there was one other town that did do that, 2 other towns that did that, but they did it a little different than ours. But they just picked a number as a round number, 25, and then 50 was another one.
Yeah, one was $50 and like 20.
Oh, yeah, one of them was like a month, 1 month's fee, you know, whatever.
I would say once staff brings us a plan, if we decide that needs to be raised, we can certainly
That's
do it at
correct.
that time.
This was a quick decision, Gerald.
I think the main thing is to get the ball rolling and let people know that we're here and willing to, we collect their tax dollars and their usage fees from water and sewer, and we're prepared to do what we can within our means to help. I think that's the spirit of the motion.
For clarification, these are undesignated funds.
That's correct, they're not obligated.
Alan and I both had questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we just shut down many of our service businesses, why are we limiting it to just restaurants?
One of the things as we discussed earlier, and I think Gerald visited with me earlier, and I've got a text message, I'm gonna read what Jeff said. Anyway, I'm just teasing guys. You know, that they are working on a plan to take some of their funds and assist other kinds of
They're
businesses.
going to address other.
Their board's gonna address it and bring it to us as a
Okay.
suggestion, yes. Yes, sir.
So locally owned and operated, or all restaurants within the city limits of Stephenville? Which?
The motion is as locally owned and operated. Locally owned.
I would assume that would include a franchise?
If
If
a
you want-
franchise is locally owned, I think that would qualify.
Other questions? Yes,
I have
sir.
a question for staff, probably about using funds designated from an enterprise fund outside of that usage.
I asked for consultation at a meeting I had with Alan earlier, and Cheryl said it'd be okay.
Well, but that's an enterprise fund. and
It
we
is.
Try our best not to commingle those funds.
What it says is, what her inclination was, and obviously she's not an attorney, I told Randy to look into it as well, was that if the fund is giving back or assisting people who actually paid into the fund, that would be, it would be okay under the government practices. Under GAAP rules.
Okay.
I couldn't give it to someone who's outside of town that doesn't pay.
Okay.
But there's a plan that Ricky is suggesting, specifically that Alan's aware of, and I think he's talked already to Jeff about, or Jason about it, and they're gonna bring a recommendation, and I think you'll be okay with it. Yes, sir.
If possible, I know what I want, I just don't know how to ask you to word it. Since you're directing us to bring back a plan, would you mind amending your motion at this time to include all restaurants in our city limits? Because what we're gonna end up with is a franchise or company-owned store that says, I pay your rates too. Why are you sending your folks to my customer or my competitors? And I'd like to try to balance that somehow, or have the latitude to balance that somehow.
Well, the money that we're talking about here, Alan, would be to residential customers, not to businesses.
Correct.
So it's gonna be some kind of a stimulus to the citizen who paid the bill to go back out and spend it at particular restaurants.
Correct. Yes, sir.
You're wanting it, you're not wanting, you want if it's that specific, we could, are you saying that if we made it more general, that when you bring us a recommendation, we can always change it and make it more specific at that point?
Absolutely. I'd rather it be broad than narrow.
That's why,
I would move to amend my original motion to read all restaurants located within the city limits of Stephenville, Texas, affected by COVID-19.
he makes a motion to amend, and Nick's already raised his hand. Second that motion. Any more discussion?
I would like to go back to Carla's point.
Yes, sir.
Many businesses are impacted right now, but two specifically are impacted by things that we as a council have done. And the folks that we just shut down are impacted as well.
That's correct.
I think we need to give consideration to those as well. Can I do that as an amendment, add it to it?
We already have an amendment to the amendment.
You can only,
No,
this is the first amendment.
This first, that'd be the second.
Then I would like to make an amendment to the amendment to include those that we just shut down for consideration.
Okay, I thought we had an amendment to add to this for the $250,000. That's one amendment. Then that was changed as an amendment, which was seconded, motion seconded.
He just changed his amendment.
Clarified his amendment.
Yeah, he changed his amendment.
Okay, okay. Modified his amendment. Okay, got
I
you.
would second Nick's motion.
Okay, so Nick's made the motion to restate your motion. Which amendment, please?
To include the folks that were shut down in the one-on-one.
And again, we could, at the council meeting where we make that decision, we can amend that back to where we want to at some point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have a motion by Nick and Mark seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Same sign opposed, motion passes. Now we're going back to the original amendment, which is to allow, as amended, will be I'm gonna say it real short version, $250,000 set aside, you're gonna bring us a plan with these other amendments in there.
Correct.
Is that good enough?
That's good enough.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Any other amendments?
Well, can I discuss something?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
I have written, so I'm not ready to make it, but I noticed as I've looked at other counties and what they've done, to try to limit the number of people coming out of their house to go to pharmacies or to go to grocery stores, which are the two places they absolutely need to go, they've limited it to one family member and not the whole family going out to those places. So I think that might be something we want to consider. I don't know.
Well, if I understand this, our original proposal last week, expires tonight, This amendment will take our existing one and merge it into this, in very short words. And it will be then back to April 1st. So everything will be good till April 1st. So by next week, we're gonna get back together with what Brady was saying earlier to discuss all this stuff, and we can bring, what we discuss at that point. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Stacy, make sure you put that on the list, that we'll make sure we bring that up if you would. Anything else?
Well, something that somebody out here mentioned a minute
Or
ago
you,
is,
Mark? You raise your hand. You're that other person out there.
somebody had asked, are the golf courses closed? And we've not addressed golf courses by themselves. They kind of fall in that amusement category, and we don't have a bowling alley anymore, or any of those places.
The counties does, I think, under section 2, outdoor activities.
So are we including that under outdoor activities?
I would say so.
I think it is. Every time Randy and I go golfing, it is. It's way outdoors.
So with that limit, I'm just questioning how this is interpreted, because you're not letting people gather. So I would hope that there's only one person in each golf cart, and that if they're renting golf carts, they're treating it like the other businesses are, because I know some businesses are actually bleaching the tables after people leave. I hope the golf course is sanitizing those golf carts between rentals. I don't know that takes, but these businesses are gonna need clarity for what we expect.
We can
So,
add that as well to our explanation on the back page. Include everybody in that situation.
That is correct.
Anybody else?
I had one more.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we're gonna
Sorry.
be here till we finish, I promise you.
Okay, well, under childcare, staff checked the largest childcare facilities in town this morning, and I was so pleased at what they were doing already without direction from the council. They're doing an excellent job. And so all these recommendations, most of them were already following through on these. But I wonder if some people would prefer to have their children at home, but for financial reasons, because they know they have to pay that, whether their children are there or not. Because if you have your children in daycare, you have to pay, whether they come or not. So I'm wondering, and I don't even know if this is something we could do, that we could add parents who wish to remove their children can do so without financial penalty for the duration of this. I don't know.
You're talking about limiting, not allowing that original childcare service to charge.
And that's something I didn't know if we could do, but I just think some
think a lot of times
some
that's by
parents might be
contract.
taking their kids when they would prefer to
I think there was a
keep them at
stimulus
home.
package passed last night that's gonna address some of that stuff.
Okay.
And I can speak, ours closed down, they're not charging us.
Well,
Faith
when
is
they
not-
closed down,
Yeah, and
but-
Faith is not charging, they're open, but they're not charging.
They're not charging if you
you're not-
decide to
if your kid's
remove.
not.
So see, some are already, they've done such an excellent job of addressing a lot of this themselves.
Anything else? Okay,
Oh, on your-
yes, sir.
On your meeting next week, when you've got your experts in, I would request that we have somebody from somewhere, maybe Tarleton,
Yes.
that can speak to the other side of this issue, which is the economic side and potential that exists there as well.
And I'll talk with you offline about exactly what that would mean, and I'll make sure we get that in there.
Okay.
That's it, ma'am. Okay, now let me ask Mr. Parliamentarian, do we now have to vote on the entire thing?
Yep.
That is correct. Okay, so we have do I hear a motion? You already have the motion.
It's ready for vote.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'd like to meet with Mr. Pendleton afterwards, and Alan, if you would. We'll talk about it offline, a meeting, how we're gonna set the meeting up for, with the professionals and stuff. You able to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Anything else? I'd encourage everybody listening that has a question that they want addressed in in our next meeting, specifically about the term shelter in place, please send me a text, email. I would appreciate that, and I'll gather those. Send them to everybody on the council if you want to. That's more than happy to do that, but be sure I get them, and I'll make sure they're on the agenda and addressed in a format.
Hey, but Mayor, I think to add to that real quick, I know the council, staff did a great job last week. If we could maybe come back with a one pager as far as what specifically this ordinance or declaration means.
that's a good point.
For everybody. I think that's just a great thing the city can do for us. So
Sure.
y'all did a good job last time, and if we can clarify, because, yeah, you have to be almost a trained legal profession to understand all this stuff, so.
And I think if you look what Burleson and some of those other places did, having charts at the end of this, if we can come up with some visual that makes this a lot less confusing.
I'd say the biggest thing is to make sure that things that the county's declaration overrules our current one, that we may not be somehow identified everybody, these ones don't apply any longer because the county's supersedes us.
We have some very talented people on our staff. Once.
Stacy, you talking about?
I mean, Stacy and other folks. Once.
Just embarrass her because she said don't call her name out.
Oh, okay. Once Ms. King completes the document, then we'll be able to both prepare the matrix that we've been asked for and the one pager. So hopefully that can be done by tomorrow.
For those that don't know my cell phone and text me, it's on the city's website. You're welcome to use that number. Anything else? Yes, sir. I'll come back to you in a second. Yes, sir.
We'll get ready. Are you setting a meeting now?
No, I'm not. I'm going to call a meeting with some folks and get some advice on a couple things, then I'll have the staff call out a meeting. And because we're also going to have to invite some folks to it. Make sure they're available. Anything else? Yes, sir. We're going to have a closing remarks here in a minute. We'll let you start then.
Well, Mayor, we're in uncharted territory for all of us in this whole country, not just the city of Stephenville. I am uncomfortable with some of the decisions that we're having to make as far as businesses and private industry and private enterprise goes, for that matter. And we're trying to mitigate those things as much as we can and be available to help. At the same time, we're trying to control what everyone that I read says is a health care crisis. And I think Dr. Doggett agrees that we need to do something and we need to do it quickly. If we overreact and we look back 6 months from now and say we shouldn't have done that, if we err on the side of safety and on the side of caution, lives, I believe, will be saved. If we don't do these kinds of things, I fear that we'll look back in 6 months and say those people might have been saved. And I'm a strong advocate, as Brady is, for the Constitution, for private enterprise, for the system of government that we have. But we're put in a terrible position where we're trying to take care of our community and do the best we can to provide to the best of our ability what we can to do that. And I want to thank you. I know you've made a number of calls, visits, emails and other things and provided that information to all of us. I want to say thank you from all of us to you and to our staff, because our staff has worked excellent and gone above and beyond trying to put all of these things together for us. And I applaud them, and I wanted to tell them publicly how much I appreciate them. And I appreciate all the members of the council that serve with me for their diligence and their willingness to sit through a difficult situation and make hopefully the best decisions that we could make. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm going to allow everybody to have a final comment, and so we're going to start over here. Brady?
Mark, you want to go first?
He already shook his head.
Okay, just real quick, Mayor, I think everybody appears to be doing their best to do what they think's right, and that's the problem. We don't know what is right because we've never been here before. But I think really when you try to look at what is the conversation to be had, it's nothing about greed. And I know that's how some people want to phrase it. It's about greed, making money. This is about survival, folks. 100% about survival. And it's not just medical health survival. It's a balance between health and economic survival. And that's what makes the conversation so hard is we have an obligation as council to balance both issues, to ensure the public health and safety, but also to ensure that we have an economic survival. And that's what makes the issue hard. And I feel confident this council and this community is going to do that and take that into consideration. Business owners are going to stand up, do their part, ensure that they're providing a health and safe, a healthy place for the people to come in and visit. Heed the warnings, folks. It is serious. Stay home. But more importantly, stay in your own community. Take care of your neighbor. There's always positive things that can come out of these type of things. And find the positives. And that's a positive we should focus on. This gives us an opportunity to really reach out there and support your neighbor. Do what you can to help the local people out. And lastly, I think one thing I was listening to throughout the week, and it kind of just rang true with me, as Paul Harvey used to say, there would be if there was perpetual sunshine, there would be no victory. There'll be victory. We'll succeed. I promise you. We'll look back at some point and we'll have survived this. We'll be better. We'll be stronger. So keep the hope. Keep the faith. Things are going to be okay. But all we need at this time is everyone's support and for us to come together and really heed the warnings and do your part. Thank you.
Gerald, I'll come back to you towards the end. Carla?
Well, I did have a couple of service people contact me yesterday after this. And they were concerned about us closing down those service industries. But in the end, they said to me, we know you're in a hard place and that you're having to make a hard decision, and what you decide, we understand. And so and they also said we wouldn't want to be in your shoes. And believe me, you don't want to be in these shoes, because I don't like the responsibility of making these decisions that affect people's livelihoods. This is an awful position to be in, and I'm glad that as a city, we're recognizing what we're doing, and we're making money available through CETA and through the $250,000 we just approved that maybe will help get you through this horrible time. So.
There's no question that one of the primary jobs of government is as an obligation to protect lives of the citizens. What we're finding ourselves in now is also a very real challenge of balancing protecting livelihoods as well. It's a balance of lives and livelihoods, and there's not a dollar in this world that's worth a person's life. But I think we all have to also realize, as we go back and look at history, that when livelihoods are destroyed, it has a direct and distinct impact on health and public safety as well. When you look at some of the things that happened through a lot of economic downturns, there is a direct impact on health and public safety. So that I don't know all of the answers. I just know that these are extremely difficult decisions to have to make when you're balancing lives and livelihoods. And I appreciate everything that all of the businesses are doing. I appreciate everything that the citizens are doing by being responsible and staying home when they don't have to. If you open your refrigerator at 7 o'clock at night and realize you don't have a bottle of ketchup, do without. If you need a bill of a week's worth of groceries, go get your groceries. If you need a bottle of ketchup, stay at home and eat without your ketchup. You'll be okay. And that's what we're asking everybody to do. Make smart decisions. And the more smart decisions our citizens make and our business owners make, the fewer extremely difficult decisions we'll have to make for you. But I appreciate everything that everybody's done and all of the encouraging messages that I'm sure all of us have received throughout the last week.
Brandon?
Yeah, this is nobody in Stephenville, Texas' fault. This is nobody would have seen this coming 10 days ago that feels like 2 years ago, but we're in it together. And what I've seen, to echo what some other people, what I've seen our community do voluntarily has been amazing, and you know, it instilled, I knew how great this place was, but seeing lines being served of hundreds of cars in line at the First Baptist Church, the faith, the United Way, running stuff all over town to seniors and people that are put in their place. The ingenuity and creativeness our businesses have done to try to make it through these times. And I'm proud of us, and we've got to continue to work together and care about each other and care about our neighbor. Again, we absolutely have to think about the economic impact of everything. But we have to listen to our medical professionals in something that's never happened before, and heed their advice. And don't make the government tell you what to do. Do it because it's the right thing. Do it because your neighbor's counting on you. Do it because that child that has lupus is counting on you, because that's important. And then we get through this faster. And then we can all work together to restore this community and this economy, because I know we will. We already are. And better days are coming, like Mr. Pendleton said. Keep your faith, keep your head up, do your part, and we will be through this so much faster.
Okay. Gerald?
I don't know that I can add anything to the statements that everyone has said. They have very succinctly told the story that we've had to face some difficult things. It's not anyone's fault, except maybe the Chinese. And, you know, it is, we face a very difficult situation. We have to do things and err on the side of life and on the side of health at this time. And hopefully that will be a short-term thing, that we have to have restrictions in place to do this. One of the things that stops those kind of things is when people band together, like Brandon was saying, and take care of each other. And we're seeing that throughout the community. I've been going around looking in the community. We see far fewer people out there on the streets. We see far fewer cars out there. We see people keeping their 6-foot distances. We are seeing this throughout the community. And this is what helps. This is what keeps. It shows that you care for your neighbor. You wear a mask, not to protect yourself, but to protect the guy next to you, in case you're sick. These are the important things right now. We've seen this community band together. And we've got to do our part. We'll do our part. And hopefully we won't have to make more difficult decisions, but if we do, we're going to do it for the sake of the big people. Thank you.
I want to say thanks to, I said this last time to y'all in a text message, to Alan and Jason. They've worked tirelessly on this. I don't know how many of y'all, I'm sure you've seen some of the emails and texts they've sent out, but we're on the phone and talking and emailing and texting until close to midnight many nights. You know, they've been stalwarts in there, and then all the other staff for picking up where they've not done their job in the last few weeks. It's been a really big deal. You know, I don't know how to say it any differently than maybe what other people say, but just I got to see if I can. I'm sorry. You know, this council, even though there seems to be disagreement today, it was not disagreeable. That's a big deal. In a heated discussion, as hot a topic as this is, we weren't disagreeable. I can tell you that those who are watching on the right now online live streaming, I've gotten text messages and emails from these folks as well, all into the hours, way into the hours of the night. It is a tough decision. It is a tough decision, and we're going to have to make those decisions because I woke up the other night. And I'll use his name anyway because he'd probably get mad at me for doing it. But you know, I remember when I first moved to Stephenville 33 years or so ago. I moved out of town on the east side of town in the country on 377. And our refrigerator didn't work. So that early the next morning, I finally got down and went to Giffords and asked for some help. Well, now that business has been passed down for how many generations now? It's in the third generation. You know, I woke up thinking, what would we do if Chris' business went away? How would you deal with that? You know, because for three generations now they've taken care of my family and the citizens of Steveville as well. At the same time, I don't want to wake up, you know, 5-10 years from now and do what some other folks have said. You know, I have 40 people dead that if I'd done something differently, you know, could have prevented them from dying. And that's real important. So it's a tough decision. We're going to have some more meetings. We're going to discuss it. This ordinance, I'm going to make sure have we voted on the actual ordinance now? Yes. Okay, we're done. Okay. And so I'm going to meet with Alan and Brady here in a minute. We're going to come up with some more ideas on a meeting for our experts to get together. We'll do it as a work session, and we're going to try to do it before the ordinance is expired again. So we'll have a better direction for us at the next meeting when we have to actually write an ordinance. Okay? Anybody have anything else? Yes, sir.
Since the county's declaration supersedes ours, do we need to include someone from the county in this discussion?
I was going to ensure that happened, yes.
And do we need to schedule our meeting following there so we might eliminate the delay that we experienced today?
That's a good point. They had already scheduled their meeting the same time we had ours, and that was unavoidable at that point. And the other part I'm going to have is I've been in contact and at least a couple conversations with the mayor of Dublin. And, you know, he's wanting also to have Dublin mirror what Stephenville does. And so we're going to include him in that conversation as well next week. When does this one expire? April 1st. Midnight April, yes. That's what I was asking earlier. We're gonna set it for April 1st. If we didn't say that, that's what we meant.
So when are we as a council going to meet again?
We will get back and make sure that it's before so we have time to discuss it. And I'll try to coordinate with, Judge Campos. You know, he and I have also been involved, as the staff have with him and the county commissioners. And this is, I mean, is an example. How many of y'all saw that county commissioners are delivering food to people's homes now?
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
They're taking medicine, and I talked to a couple of them, and they were all actually had
Absolutely.
delivers going, so.
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna do what we can, and we're gonna do what we can to stop this disease, because I'm not a physician or a nurse, but I'm in the healthcare arena, and I can tell you, it scares the poop out of me. You know, I work in a business that most of y'all know what the business is. I won't describe it here, but I had a friend that called me and said, he's from another state. He said, you know what? It came into my group, one of my group homes. And what was at one time somewhat esoteric, a little bit more theoretical. Well, what would you do in case? What's your plan going to look like? All of a sudden, it was like, what would you do? Our plan is, I would tell you, we've typed it up right now. It's probably hundreds of pages now, and daily going over it with staff. Here's what you're going to do. And I can tell you the number one problem, I think this is what the physicians were talking about, is what happens when your workforce goes away? Watch that video. Go to Cowboy Church and click on that COVID-19 on their website. It explains it well. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but I think it's 10 times as contagious and 20 times as deadly, or maybe the reverse of that. The contagious part of it, the curve is it's infecting. Everyone who's infected will probably spread it to 2.3, 2.4 people, something like that. And the typical flu is 1.1 or 1.2. We're spreading it twice as fast at least. And if we can do, every measure we take lowers that curve. Every measure we do. And so is this council gonna do something that's gonna wipe it out in Steamboat, Texas? No, we're not. Our point is, how far can we hit the curve down? That's what our job is. And do it so that Chris Gifford's still in business the next year. And the Chris Giffords of the world. Woodrow, for example, barbershop. I met with him yesterday. And I've not heard a bit, not a person, not a citizen, no one has complained. Everybody's scared, and our job is to come up with a plan that protects as best we can and hold people's hands when they're scared. So that's what our job is. And with that, it is 4:51, and we will stand adjourned. Thank you all for being here.